So my name is Elizabeth Clarke. I am originally from Rhinebeck, New York, so I am local and more I ways than it one when it comes to this, New York State as well as the article that we wrote. Um, I don't necessarily say I was like interested in this. It wasn't something that occurred to me when I first got the job here at Marist College working as a librarian. My boss was the director of archives and special collections, and he wanted everybody who was working for him to get involved with an archives project. And so he told me about this Poughkeepsie Regatta website that we had then, as well as the collection, and it sounded really interesting to me because I had been doing some research in local history topics, and I knew that a lot of the Poughkeepsie newspapers were digitized, and we only had New York Times coverage. So that was my first thought was, oh, let's actually bring in the local newspaper angle, and that's where I started on this. I'll let Anne tell you more.
My name is Sandri, and I was born and raised in Ulster County, the other side of the Hudson River, and in Marlborough. And when I started at Marist College as a library assistant, part of my job is to work in the archives and special collections, and the director there had some projects, some collections they wanted to work on and expand, and I was tasked with working with Elizabeth.
Or I pulled you into it. I do that.
That happened too. Of collections that were of particular interest and for the local history angle, as well as importance to the college. And this collection happened to be one of the favorites of the president of the college at the time as well.
So this project started as first we're doing research, but the other component of it was acquiring materials for the collection. We had a very small collection when we started, just 2 boxes and a handful of items that didn't fit in those 2 boxes. So in terms of where we found our resources for this article, but also for the collection, it's pretty wide reaching. We've talked to the Library of Congress, in particular, their film archive, as well as their photo photographs and prints collections. We also worked with the National Archives to acquire some microfilm on WPA projects that are related to the collection, as well as film footage. And we also went really local as well. So we made appointments at the Town of Lloyd Historian's office and got the other side of the river perspective in a lot of ways. But we also talked to the local history room at the Adrian's Library. So there are items in the collection, as well as items we used in the creation of this article, that come from all of these different places. And that's just a short list. There's several more where we've worked with them and either gotten copies or gotten donations of items from individuals that turned out to be sources for this collection, but also for the article itself. But the bulk of our sources and resources for this come from Marist Archives and Special Collections, which is who we built the collection for. And so when we reference an image, an object, those are things that are generally held either as an original or a copy at Marist College. Anything you want to add to that?
No, you covered it.
Okay, all right.
Why New York Archives Magazine? I think it makes sense. This was a huge event for this area in particular, the Hudson Valley, which is a very predominant area, obviously, in New York State. So it made sense. It is a big chunk of the history for the early 1900s, starting a little bit before that in 1895. And, it touches upon the local history, the sporting history, the collegiate history of the area, and so on. So we felt that it was a perfect fit.
And it's also an archival project on several levels. We used archives for sources, but we also built an archive of materials. So it works really well in reflecting many levels of archival work.
And the only other thing I think I would add to this is maybe someone would ask, why Marist College? Marist didn't really have any skin in the game, basically, because it was not a college when the Poughkeepsie Regatta first started. And we would say it was because on the property of Marist College, we have the last standing original boathouse from Regatta Row in the Cornell Boathouse. But that gave us the opportunity to build out this collection without just a single focus of a school, because when we started this, we realized that we got pieces of information, and that made sense because we went to the archives of the schools that participated, and we felt, well, that's very interesting, but there wasn't a all-encompassing history of this event where we could tell the story of it chronologically, as well as who was there, and not just who was there for the time that they were there. So we have, we believe, the most comprehensive history of this event.
And many of the colleges don't have, huge athletic programs or huge crew programs. So even, their history is sort of either helter-skelter or non-existent on the web or in their archives. So we've actually given some of these smaller schools with smaller athletic programs a place where that history, at least in part, exists out there for people to find. So I feel like in a lot of ways we're trying to, as you said, be as comprehensive and cover as many avenues as possible.
And that's about it for our article. If you found that interesting, you can check out our book through Arcadia Publishing, and learn a lot more on the subject.